Welcome to Midcentury Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome back to Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add vintage vibes to your modern life. We're your hosts, Jackie.
And Gonzalo, thanks for joining us today. So we're talking about a comic strip that not only has had a lasting legacy since the mid-century, but has easily some of the most recognizable characters ever, Peanuts. If you'd like to skip ahead to the topic we're covering today, we have some timestamps in our notes, or check out our new chapter links on our episode. First, Jackie, how was your week?
My week was great. Things have been plugging along. I'm just super excited for my vacation in October, and I'm making very good progress for once on my list of sewing projects. So I had 5 outfits I wanted to try to make, and as of recording right now, one is complete. The second one is almost complete. I just need to put some Velcro on it, and the third one is almost complete. So I'm gonna finish outfits 2 and 3 today, and then I'll have an entire month to make the last 2, which means I'm ahead of schedule, and I'm not gonna be doing this in a last minute panic for once.
Nice.
Yay me! I did it. Well, we're already off the rails on this episode. This is fun. But anyway, yeah, that's what happened. That's what's happening in my life. How was your week?
My week was good. I've actually been having a lot of fun reliving my high school life because I've been helping our school's theater department with their set.
Yay.
So it's been a lot of fun, especially because my high school, the school that I work at, and the high school that Jackie and I went to, have the same exact design for the stage and the pack. So it's literally like being back in my high school stage.
Man, that's
Like
gotta
the
be so
doors
much
are in the
fun.
same location, and like I went and I turned on the lights, and it took me a few seconds to remember how, but I still got it done. So, I mean, it's been 20 years since I turned that button on, but still, it's been kind of fun, and they're doing great, and they're learning a lot, and they so I go once a week only. They build the rest of the week, but I only volunteer my time once a week. And when I was there last week, we finished platforms, and they're already on their place on the set, and they taped down the set on the floor with spike tape in various colors, and then when they're done, I go, well, what if we put clear tape on top so it doesn't move, because that's what we used to do when we were in high school. And they're like, oh, great idea. I'm like, well, thank you.
Aw,
So
I love that.
it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, that was my week.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, I wish
Yeah.
I would just love to just walk around in the theater again. I miss theater so much. But anyway, speaking of writing or children, I don't
There
know.
we go.
You're better at transitions than I am, but we should probably get to the show,
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Peanuts.
which I think is a seasonally appropriate. I know it's an all the time thing, but I always associate the Peanuts with the Great Pumpkin, so I think this is a great time for you to pick this episode.
Yeah. So
But anyway, we should probably start with a description of Peanuts for anyone here who is not too familiar with the comic strip. So, it was created by Charles M. Schulz, more on him later, and follows the everyday lives of a group of children, usually centered around the kind hearted and forever unlucky Charlie Brown and his imaginative beagle Snoopy. For decades, his comic strip has blended humor and gentle philosophy as it explores the themes we encounter as we grow up, like friendship, failure, and hope, often through relatable and simple moments of life. Though the characters are children, the strip usually reflects more complex and adult emotions, making it relatable to children and grown-ups alike.
yeah, if you've never seen or read the comic strip, it's characterized by simple, clean lines and a minimalist design. This style of drawing puts emphasis on emotional expressions and personalities rather than realistic detail on the characters. So a little bit of a breakdown on the artistic style. It is a minimalistic design, so those shapes and clear outlines. That's what we mean by minimalistic. It helps the focus to remain on the characters' personalities and humor, conveying the strip's theme without crowding with like artistic detail. The world around the characters is drawn with an elegant and uncomplicated lines that contribute to a clean aesthetic. And this minimalism and elegance also allows the emotional expressions of the characters to shine. So subtle changes are used to convey humor or depth. So even if simple, the characters are relatable and then also easily understood. And the characters have become memorable and easily recognized cultural icons. So like, I remember growing up, my friend Taylor had a one year for Halloween. He was dressed as Charlie Brown, and he had the head, and the head was like, I don't know, like 2 feet in diameter. It was this gigantic thing, and we used to dress up to go to school. This was elementary school in Mexico. Anyway, I should reach out to him. He lives in Austin now. The art is actually really important because backgrounds are generally not used. So when they are, or when they were, Schultz used frazzled lines to psychologically make them less important than the characters. And this style was described by art critic John Carlin as forcing the quote readers to focus on subtle nuances rather than broad actions or sharp transitions. You're familiar with this strip, right?
Yes, but mostly later. I remember reading it in color as a kid, and most of the examples from around our time period were not in color yet.
Yes. Yeah, they changed, but also not just in color. But spoiler for ahead, they also changed in the format. Um, but why don't you tell a little bit about the creator?
Yes, so let's start with the father of the Peanuts. So, Peanuts was created by Charles Schulz, usually referred to by in his byline as Charles M. Schulz. He was an American cartoonist and is widely regarded as one of the most influential cartoonists in history. He was born Charles Monroe Schultz in November 26, 1922, just 4 days before Thanksgiving that year, which was apparently on November 30th in 1922.
I researched.
He was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and grew up in St. Paul and was the only child of Carl Fred Schultz and Dina Halverson. From an early time, Schultz showed an interest in comic strips. He loved the comic strip Barney Google, even gaining the nickname Sparky after the horse Sparkplug in the comic. That's where that nickname comes from. I saw
Yeah,
that, uh, spoilers for my etiquette segment, while I was looking up stuff for that later. Interesting. Having skipped some grades when he was young, he was the youngest student in his class at Central High School.
which sounds like a fake school, but no, it's real. It's the oldest continuously operated high school in the state and known as one of the biggest at the state at over 1,000 students, which is like peanuts for us because high schools in our area, like the one I work at, has almost 4,000 students. So, like, but anyway, also go Minutemen. That's their mascot.
Yeah. Charles was shy and timid as a teenager, often drawing, sometimes using his family dog Spike as his subject. Spike was known for eating unusual things, and in 1937 was featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not, captioned, "A hunting dog that eats pins, tacks, and razor blades is owned by C.F. Schultz in St. Paul, Minnesota. Drawn by Sparky."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny that his dog got famous for eating razor blades. He spent some time in military service, so in 1943, Schultz's mother died after a battle with cancer, and this had a profound effect on Charles, who had been close to his mother. And at the same time, Schultz was drafted into the U.S. Army, serving as staff sergeant with the 20th Armored Division during World War II. His unit saw combat until the very end of the war, but Schultz claimed he only had one opportunity to fire his 50 caliber machine gun, and even then realized he forgot to load it, and the German and the German soldier he could have fired at willingly surrendered anyway.
I just find that hilarious. It's
That's
like,
like a very Charlie Brown moment, but
yes,
also
it is
kind of
exactly a Charlie Brown moment.
like um Schultz received the Combat Infantry Badge and remained proud of his military service, as he should, throughout his life, even after returning home to Minnesota in 1945. At his return, he took a job at the Art Instruction Inc. School, a school formerly known as the Federal School of Applied Cartooning, known for training illustrators and training people in cartooning.
Yeah, you actually may know them, even if you're not aware, from their Draw Me advertising campaigns, meant to inspire people into becoming peoples here, well, not here, but at the school, and learning to draw. These are the ones like you would see with like a little like image and like a little blank space that says "Draw me" and "Send me," and that was like how you applied to become part of the school.
Oh,
And it
that's
really this
nice.
should be its own episode because it's really cool.
Yeah, we should. I like that. Schultz had actually taken a correspondence course from the school, and by 1946 he was working there, reviewing and grading students' work and developing his career as a comic creator. So now we're getting to the early career. So from 1947 to 1950, Schultz developed his artistic charm through a series of one-panel jokes that were published weekly in the St. Paul Pioneer Press called Lil Folks. This comic was actually seen in 4 one-panel drawings per issue. Gonzalo included examples for all of the comics we're going to talk about in this episode, and we will include them in an Instagram post for everybody.
Mhm.
It was actually in Little Folks that Schultz first used the character Charlie Brown, though it was applied to 4 different drawings of a boy. The comic also had a dog that looked a lot like Snoopy would in Peanuts later, and he tried to have Little Folks syndicated after the Saturday Evening Post published his drawings, but that failed. And in January 1950, the Pioneer Press dropped Schultz's drawing from their publication.
Yeah, but here's where Peanuts comes in. Because later in 1950, the United Feature Syndicate became interested in a longer version of Little Folks that Schultz had created. Unfortunately, they had to change the name due to legal reasons, so Schultz renamed his drawing Peanuts. And that name actually comes from the known Peanut Gallery, right? So he's saying that these kids would be the kids that would be in the Peanut Gallery. The comic strip's original run went from 1950 through 2000, continuing with reruns after 2000 when Schultz passed away. Peanuts is among the most popular and influential comic strips in history, with 17,897 strips published in all. And that makes the strip the longest story ever told by one human being, because Schultz did every single one of them.
I love that.
At the time of Schultz's death in 2000, Peanuts ran in over 2,600 newspapers, reaching roughly 355 million people across 75 countries and translated into 21 languages. The main characters are a social circle of young children, and adults exist but are rarely seen or heard. So we have Charlie Brown, a meek and nervous kid with little self-confidence, unable to fly a kite, win a baseball game, or even kick a football. He is awkward, deeply sensitive, and has a sort of inferiority complex. And he's actually named after a colleague of Schultz from the Art Institute, the school he went to and worked at, Charlie Francis Brown. So like full on name. Obviously, we have Snoopy. He's a dog, and later will be described as a beagle. Generally, he behaves like a real dog and has non-speaking role, but connects to readers through his human thoughts. He walks on his hind legs and is able to use tools, including his typewriter. And in the animated movie, he's also seen driving a Citroen 2CV, which is one of my favorite cars. He's got many alter egos, including a world-famous attorney, a surgeon, a secret agent, and most notably, a World War I flying ace. His famous red doghouse is small in dimensions and realistic looking from the outside, though the inside is described as having large items like a recreation room, a library, and even a pool table. However, it was never shown in a drawing because it would ask the reader to suspend reality too much.
Yeah, that's my favorite bit, I think.
Siblings Linus and Lucy, with Linus being the younger brother. Lucy is often seen as bossy, selfish, and opinionated, usually in a sarcastic way. And according to Schultz, Lucy is mean because it is funny, especially because she's a girl. She sometimes acts as a psychiatrist, charging 5 cents for advice to other characters, usually Charlie Brown, from her psychiatric booth, which is like a play on a lemonade stand. Linus is Charlie Brown's most loyal friend. He introduces some more culture to the strip, usually voicing opinions on topics such as literature, art, science, politics, and even theology. He's usually portrayed as a, quote, smart but dumb kid, according to Schultz, and is usually also seen sucking his thumb or holding a security blanket. This was, according to Schultz, quote, probably the single best thing I ever thought of, end quote. Being very proud of its versatility and the phrase security blanket because that eventually entered the dictionary.
Oh, wow. He came up with that phrase?
Yeah.
Wow.
We also have Peppermint Patty, who's a loyal friend who is usually seen to misunderstand things, her confusion usually serving as a premise for many strips and stories. She struggles at school and with her homework and is portrayed as more of a tomboy. And she's really cool because she's, spoiler ahead, included in the last ever strip. And then we also have some extra characters. Marcy, a bookish and good student. Sally Brown, who's Charlie Brown's younger sister. Schroeder, musically talented and Beethoven fanatic, usually seen with his piano. And then Franklin, who's an African-American boy who first appeared at the suggestion of a reader following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And since it was Schultz's intention to achieve this without being patronizing, he's a relatively normal character who mainly reacts to the oddness of other characters.
So did you have a favorite Peanuts character growing up?
I mean, how can you hate Snoopy? I think he's the best. I like all of them, especially when in the animated movies, when we get to them, when they dance.
Yeah, I love the dancing.
Yeah.
And I think as a kid, I really liked Lucy and Woodstock.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I didn't include Woodstock in this. Woodstock is a friend of Snoopy's, and he's a little yellow bird.
And he's very cute. I just like the cute stuff.
He's so tiny, so
He's so
that fits the
tiny.
bill.
I do love tiny things.
Yeah. As Jackie mentioned, though, Peanuts began as a daily strip in 1950, October 2nd, to be exact.
Oh, coming right up.
Yeah, that's true. In the 1950s, after October 2nd, the strip was published in 7 newspapers: the Minneapolis Star, which is the hometown paper for Schultz, the Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, the Denver Post, the Seattle Times, and 2 newspapers in Pennsylvania, the Evening Chronicle and the Globe Times. And the first strip actually featured Charlie Brown walking by 2 children named Shermie and Patty. Snoopy didn't actually make an appearance until October 4th on the 3rd strip. In 1952, the first Sunday strip appeared on January 6th in a half-page format. In the 1950s, also saw the introduction of other characters: Schroeder in May of 51, Lucy in March of 52, Linus in September of 52, Sally in August of 59, Peppermint Patty in 1966, and then Woodstock in March 1966, but not named until the 1970s. Schultz actually produced all aspects of the strip himself, from finished art to lettering, though he did hire help to produce comic book adaptations in order to complete those works with an unified tone. Schultz continuously reaffirmed the importance of crafting the strip himself. Some changes, though, between the early strips and later editions. Art was cleaner, sleeker, and simpler in the early ones, thicker lines and shorter squatter characters. For example, originally Charlie Brown's head was more closely related to the shape of a football than the famous round head. Moving into the 1960s, though, they were considered the golden age of Peanuts. Some of the strip's most famous characters and best known themes appeared. For example, Snoopy as a World War I flying ace. This era is also when we see Schultz throwing in satirical digs at then hot topics of his choosing. His characters would often satirize the adult world. He tackled topics such as the Vietnam War, buying U.S. saving bonds like in 1962, and then adding characters with numbers for names to show people's identities are being taken over by numbers and that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
The 60s also saw religious themes making their way into the strip, which some people criticize as him being religious. And he's like, nope, this is just what's being discussed nowadays, so I'm including it. So in 1968, again, we see the introduction of Franklin at the urging of a white Jewish LA schoolteacher, Harry Glickman, and complaining that there should be a way for kids to learn how to interact with people who are different than them. So, yeah. Moving beyond the mid-century, in the 1970s, 75 to be exact, saw the shortening of the strip. Changes to Schultz's contract with United Feature Syndicate in the 1970s also led to the hiring of comic artist Al Plastino to draw a backlog of Peanut strips to hold in reverse in case Schultz ever left the strip. These were held in reserve by United Feature Syndicate and left unpublished when Schultz and the syndicate reached a contract agreement. And they eventually became public, but these are the like United Syndicate being like, oh, just in case he leaves, let's get some so that we can still sell papers. In the 80s, 88 to be exact, which is the best year ever, that was a moment where Schultz abandoned the traditional 4-panel mold of the comic strip he had been using since 1950. Here's when the comic strip changed to the 3-panel daily horizontal one that we see today. And this was mainly due to shrinking the size of comic pages. I know we're reaching the outside of the mid-century, but we got to talk a little bit about the 2000s and the end of Peanuts, because Schultz continued to write and draw the strip until announcing his retirement on December 14th, 1999. This was due to his failing health, and Schultz eventually passed away on February 12th, 2000.
So you said eventually, but that is 2 months later. Like almost exactly 2 months later.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I
is
guess.
really sad.
The last 3 Peanut strips were published from Saturday, July from Saturday, January 1st, 2000 through Monday, January 3rd, 2000. And the Saturday strip featured a snowball fight between Peppermint Patty, Charlie Brown, and Linus, with Snoopy trying to figure out how to throw a snowball. This strip was also notable because it was the first time the lettering had to be done by computer due to Schultz's failing health. The Sunday strip consisted of Peppermint Patty playing a game of football in the rain by herself, lamenting that everyone had gone home, and then they never shook hands and said "good game," which is like amazing layers of like emotion. And that's what I mentioned earlier about Peppermint Patty being important towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the layers in this one. So, the last strip on Monday consisted of a drawing of Snoopy sitting atop his doghouse with his typewriter, as he had done many times over the course of the strip's lifespan. The drawing was accompanied by a printed note from Schultz, which officially announced his retirement from drawing and thanking his readers for their support. Reruns of the older strips began on January 4th, 2000, though 6 unpublished Sunday strips were left completed by Schultz. These ran in January 2000, with the last one appearing on February 13th, 2000, the night after Schultz passed away from a heart attack. In the last one, the title panel shows Charlie Brown talking to someone on the telephone, who is apparently asking to speak to Snoopy. Charlie Brown responds by telling the caller, "No, I think he's writing." The second panel shows Snoopy sitting atop his doghouse typing on his typewriter, as he had many times before, like I said, while the words "Dear Friends" appeared above his head. A larger panel at the bottom consisted of a larger scale drawing of the final daily strip, with Snoopy against a blue sky background. Above his head, several panels from past strips are overlaid, and underneath these panels, a full note that Schultz had written to his fans was printed. Part of it had been omitted in the final daily strip. And it reads as follows: "Dear friends, I have been fortunate to draw Charlie Brown and his friends for almost 50 years. It has been the fulfillment of my childhood ambition. Unfortunately, I am no longer able to maintain the schedule demanded by a daily comic strip. My family does not wish Peanuts to be continued by anyone else. Therefore, I am announcing my retirement. I've been grateful over the years for the loyalty of our editors and the wonderful support and love expressed to me by fans of the comic strip. Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Linus, Lucy, how can I ever forget them? Signed, Charles M. Schultz." What do you think about this way of ending such an important comic strip?
I love it. I think it's like a really great way to like turn it into a piece of art. Like he
Hmm.
didn't just release a letter and like have someone type it up and add it to the thing. Like he incorporated it into one final drawing, which I like that. I think this is the
Yeah.
perfect way to go.
Yeah, I love the idea that like his way of retiring is someone contacting his character and be like, "Oh no, he's writing." It's
Mhm.
like someone like I don't know if you remember Non Mockers Barbecue in Katy, but it was a barbecue shop where we grew up, and the guy who owned it had owned it for like 40 something years, and when he retired, all he did was put a sign on the door that said "gun fishing." So
I mean, that's another way to do it for sure.
yeah. But no, I like it. That and like the layers with Peppermint Patty being like, "Oh, everyone's gone home. I didn't even get a chance to say good, good game."
Well, that one is confusing because I don't know if she's saying that like because she's playing football in the rain by herself and everyone went home and they never shook hands with her. Like, is
Yeah.
he feeling like he didn't get like people weren't telling him great job often enough?
No, I took that as like, "Oh, everyone's gone home. Everyone's already leaving. Like we are ending as a strip."
Yeah, that could be that. Like they already made like all the cast has already left the stage or something like that.
Yeah, everyone sort of said goodbye. This is
Yeah.
the scene in Friends when they all put their key on the counter.
No.
I'm tugging
Well,
at the heartstrings of our listeners here.
yeah, there's a lot of heartstrings. Anyway, yeah, I think it's a very poetic and nice way to go. But I do I do love the sense of humor of the gone fishing idea from your barbecue place, which is since that's something in the present, that's a great way to transition it into our connection to today's segment.
There you
So many other cartoonists
go.
paid tribute to Peanuts after Schultz's death. United Feature Syndicate began to offer newspapers packages of reruns under the title Classic Peanuts. These were reprinted or rerun strips from the 1960s or the 1990s. All Sunday strips in the package come from the 1960s, which is good to know because those were all the ones I read, probably were the
Yeah, so we were
Sunday ones.
always reading the mid-century ones.
That's great. So in 2015, a deal by Go Comics was announced that the website would be launching a feature rerunning the entire history of the strip from its beginning in colorized form to be called Peanuts Begins. But
Yeah,
the Peanuts comics had an ongoing impact on the mid-century as well as today. Peanuts is known for its subtle social commentary of the times. Schultz did not explicitly address racial and gender equality issues so much as assume them to be self-evident, which is my favorite way to do it. It's just like, nope, there's just like exactly what he does with Franklin. Like, there's just a African American child here too, just interacting. He's like Franklin's presence in a racially integrated school is just assumed as being a thing. Like
yeah,
and Peppermint Patty being a tomboy and having athletic skill as a girl is just like a thing. Like that's just
yeah.
the way.
He's not. He's bringing in social commentary without saying, "Hey guys, I'm going to be social for this trip."
Hmm.
It's just like, here it is.
Yep, it's just
That's
here,
it.
just part of life.
Yeah,
The fact that Charlie Brown's baseball team had three girls in it is also progressive and ahead of its time. The girls on his baseball team actually came up in a part of a 1966 Prime television special called Charlie Brown's All Stars, in which Charlie Brown refused sponsorship of his team because it was only on the condition that he fired the girls and Snoopy.
yeah,
So good for him. Peanuts also took a dig at the space race in 1958 with a strip in which Snoopy tossed Linus into the air and boasted he was the first dog to launch a human, parodying Sputnik 2's launch of Laika the dog into space earlier that year. That's funny.
yeah. I love that. It's like, I don't know. I just love that. The comic strip also had a huge impact and left an immense legacy on cartoonists and other comic strips. It actually helps cement the four-panel gag strip as the comic standard in the USA. Many cartoonists have cited Schulz as an influence in their own work, including Lynn Johnston, Patrick McDonnell, and Kathy Guise White. A 1997 issue of the Comics Journal published an extensive collection of testimonials in which over 40 cartoonists, published, independent, mainstream, what have you, shared reflections on the influence of Schulz's art. And cartoon tributes have appeared in other comic strips since the 2000 death of Schulz. These are actually now displayed in the Charles Schulz Museum. Though the work of Schulz has impacted even more than just other cartoonists' work, in broader culture, Peanuts has continued to leave a legacy of grandeur. The Charles Schulz Museum and Research Center in Santa Rosa, California, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to giving depth to the funny pages, or comics, through preservation, display, and interpretation of life and art of Charles M. Schulz. It provides hands-on education that allows visitors to even draw their own cartoons,
Oh,
and displays not only Schulz's work of Peanuts, but also his earlier work. Most notably, what most people may know, even if they've never read uh, Peanuts, is the giant helium balloons of Snoopy, Charlie Brown, and Woodstock that have been featured in Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City since 1968. And Snoopy was even the personal safety mascot for NASA. This actually was the inspiration for this episode because I saw a post on Instagram by at Jerry Science, that since 1968, every astronaut has carried a silver Snoopy pin into space, and upon their return, they present the pin as a special honor to a civilian team member who played a key role in keeping them safe. And this is known as the Silver Snoopy Award.
oh, I love that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. The black and white communications cap that carries the audio headset for the astronauts and has been worn since 1968 by the Apollo, the Skylab, and the Space Shuttle's astronauts is also referred to as the Snoopy cap. The Apollo 10 lunar module's call sign was Snoopy, and the command module's call sign was Charlie Brown. And a drawing of Charlie Brown in a spacesuit done by Schulz was actually hidden aboard one of the space missions to be found by the astronauts once they were in orbit. And this drawing is now on display at the Kennedy Space Center.
Aw.
Peanuts characters as well as Charles Schulz have been recognized several times in U.S. commemorative postage stamps, and even the Sonoma County Airport in California was renamed in 2001 to the Charles M. Schulz Airport. Its logo features Snoopy in full World War I flying ace costume, taken to the skies on top of his red doghouse.
Aw. I love that too.
Yeah. I love the idea of a Peanuts drawing being hidden somewhere on a spaceship, and then like halfway through the mission, an astronaut's like, I don't know, trying to like problem solve or like look for something. Especially, even better would be if like there's an emergency going on, they're like trying to push buttons, and they're like, "What's this Snoopy doing here?"
That is really funny. And yeah, the giant Snoopy balloon is probably like when I close my eyes and think of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, that's the like balloon that I remember the most.
Yeah, I think of Woodstock and I think of Underdog.
Hmm, hmm.
So anyway, the legacy of Peanuts did not end with Shaw's passing in 2000. The characters have been featured in many books over the years. Reprint collections have been published since 1952 and continued through the 1980s. Fantagraphics Books published The Complete Peanuts, a 26-volume set of every single strip in the comic book reprinted chronologically. And this was developed with Charles Schulz, even though he had always resisted republication of earlier strips. And this set was published over the course of 12 years.
Wow.
Several anniversary books have been published on key anniversaries of Peanuts, usually every 5 or 10 years as well. And there have been several adaptations of Schulz's work, from documentaries to animated television specials to feature-length films and even Broadway musicals. Some of these adaptations include A Charlie Brown Christmas from 1965, which was the first half-hour Christmas special broadcast on CBS, and also the first of a set of Peanut television specials that included It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown in 1966 and A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving in 1973. A Boy Named Charlie Brown from 1969 became the first feature-length film, and Bon Voyage Charlie Brown and Don't Come Back in 1980 was also a famous or a popular one. And that's the one in which Snoopy drives a 2CV.
Mm.
That's what I remember. The most recent feature-length film is the Peanuts movie from 2015.
Which I have not seen. Did you see it?
I have not seen it.
No.
I vaguely remember that happening.
It was like CGI looking. It wasn't hand drawn animation anymore, which is
I don't know. I don't remember much between 2013 and COVID, pretty much. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is a musical, originally off Broadway in 1967, with a revival in 1999, which featured Anthony Rapp, B.D. Wong, Kristen Chenoweth, and Roger Bart as Charlie Brown, Linus, Sally, and Snoopy, respectively. Which, Anthony Rapp, for sure.
And Kristen Chenoweth, I knew she
Yeah.
was in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Every now and then, clips of it come up on my Instagram feed.
Yeah. I also love the fact that B.D. Wong is in it, because to me, he'll always be the psychologist in Law and Order. And then also Snoopy, the musical, originally from 1975.
But wait, there's more. Here are some fun facts about the beloved comic strip. So, during the strip's run, 1950 to 2000, Schultz took only one vacation, a 5-week break in 1997 to celebrate his 75th birthday. And this was the only time during Schultz's life that the strip was made up with reruns. Wow. What
Yeah.
a work ethic. Peanuts was featured on the cover of Time on April 9th, 1965, with an article calling it the leader of a refreshing new breed that takes an unprecedented interest in the basics of life. Schultz received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which Snoopy has also received.
I love that too.
And the Schultzes actually survived a kidnapping attempt in the 80s. So in May 8th, 1988, two gunmen wearing ski masks entered the Schultzes' home through an unlocked door, allegedly planning to kidnap Jean, Charles's wife. The attempt failed and was abandoned when Charles's daughter Jill drove up to the house, prompting the kidnappers to flee. That's crazy.
That is insane, but also a quick reminder to lock your doors.
Yeah, for real. Some awards earned by Peanuts or by Charles Schultz. The National Cartoonist Society Humor Comic Strip Award in 1962, the Reuben Award in 1955 and 1964, first cartoonist to receive it twice, the Elsie Seeger Award in 1980, and the Milton Caniff Lifetime Achievement Award in 1999. And then just some extra bonus stats. The overall entire run of the strip ended in 17,897 strips. Merchandise and product endorsements produce revenues of more than $1 billion per year, earning Schultz an estimated $30 to $40 million annually. I guess now his family gets that.
Yes.
And that's the story of Peanuts. Any final thoughts?
I've read it in the funny pages, but I always thought that Peanuts was supposed to be a comic strip about Snoopy, not about Charlie Brown.
No, Snoopy just has more star power. But I think that's
Yeah.
the point, is because Charlie Brown's supposed to be like so pathetic.
Yeah. But that's why I was always confused when there would be like a Sunday paper and like Snoopy wasn't part of the comic strip. You're like, but it's Snoopy, and then I was always confused why it was called Peanuts and not Snoopy. So
Yeah, I get that. Well,
so
I'm bringing Snoopy back for the etiquette segment.
okay, cool. Well, then if you're ready, now that we've caught up to the present, it's time for our etiquette segment. So Jackie, what Peanuts stuff related do we have today?
So, since there's a lot of life commentary in the Peanuts comics, I didn't have to look very hard to find something about manners. Which is funny because I actually uh, found this before I read your etiquette segment from last one, and they're kind of related to the etiquette segment from our last episode. But anyway,
Cool.
so here is an etiquette tip that Snoopy gives in a comic strip from August 23rd, 1976. So Charlie Brown is picking up Snoopy's bowl, and he's like, "What's this? You didn't eat all your supper." And Snoopy says, "Of course not. My grandmother always told me to leave a little something for Mr. Manners." So apparently, the backstory of this is that, and I found this from a blog post by Jean Schultz, Charles's widow, explaining the origin of this joke. So apparently, leaving something for Mr. Manners was advice that Jean's grandmother had given her. Quote, "My grandmother said when dining at someone's home, one should leave a little food on the plate, lest the hostess, seeing a completely cleaned plate, may fear that she has not provided a sufficient meal." Uh, so, Gonzalo, what do you think of that etiquette tip? Leaving a
so
little food on your plate for Mr. Manners.
I think it's fine. I like the idea. Like I understand why. Like I understand why someone would be like, tell your kids that this is etiquette. Of course, listeners, if you listened to last week's episode, you learned that this, according to Amy Vanderbilt list, um, is not necessary to do. Like you can finish your plate. So I love the idea of like this conflicting etiquette between different peoples, and you know, Jean Schultz's grandmother would be from prior to the mid-century, so maybe at that point it was more etiquette to like leave something, and as the mid-century happened, maybe it's related to like rationing or something. It's like it's totally cool to finish your whole thing, and of course now you would join the clean plate club if you finish your plate. So,
Yeah. Uh,
which parents out there know.
I think it's silly. I think you should finish your plate. I don't know if I'd consider it a success if people left food on their plate. I don't know.
I know. I would be like, did you not think it was good enough?
Right. I would
to
just start
finish?
second guessing my like.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you strategically leave one bite of everything so that like not one thing looks better. If you just leave one broccoli floret on the plate, like I don't know. I don't really
Well,
understand. I don't like this
but
etiquette,
also,
but
I
I do
guess
think it's
maybe,
cute that it ended up in a Snoopy comic strip.
yeah. I feel like then maybe in this, maybe you share some of this because this is the Italian side of me that does this. Um, when you eat pasta and there's sauce on the plate, after you finished all the pasta, you grab bread and you like squeegee your plate.
Mhm.
And that's like one of the best parts of the pasta meal.
Yeah, we leave 100% clean plates in
Yeah.
Italian dinners.
Yeah. So I think it's appropriate for the episode and it's appropriate for the comic strip. But I'm gonna side with Amy Vanderbilt from last week's episode and say that I don't think we should keep this etiquette tip because I'm okay with finishing your plate.
I agree.
Sounds good. Well, with that, it looks like we have finally landed the red doghouse, or at least Snoopy has. Thank you guys all for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at MCL Podcast. Instagram is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions, so send us a DM anytime. And you can also contact us through the Send Us a Text Message feature in the show notes.
Yeah, so send us some fan mail. And listeners, also quick reminder that we are ending September with this episode and we are entering spooky season. So our next, I think 4, maybe 5 episodes in that following October are going to be not just mid-century, but spooky mid-century vibes.
Yeah, so get excited.
Yeah. Thanks guys for listening and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.